about Doctor. He is the Vice President of the Free Balochistan Movement and a Baloch economist, human rights activist, and senior lecturer at the University of Hertfordshire in England, UK. He is the author of several books, including Temporary Economic Crisis and Permanent Economic Disorder. So let me call upon Dr.Shazavar Karimzadi to be with us, share his views with us. Thank you very much. Please come on stage.
I think I start from here, by the way, okay? So, no, you're not more than my class, okay? So my class is, when I've got classes, really much larger, okay? There's so many of them. But, yeah, let me first, okay, thank all of you. Shall I say Baluchi as well, okay? And thank you all the guests that we have here. It was really appreciate, your feedback and your contribution to what you said about Balochistan and what you've done in case of Balochistan, okay? And let me to start with my cousin Kurdish, okay? Long time ago, anyway, when I was a little boy, I mentioned it, I think once more. I was one of the political prisoners in Iran with mullahs, okay? So one day they brought a worker, a Baloch worker, and then they asked him, so how come you're here? Why they brought you here? He said, look, this morning, okay, we call it garmish, okay, it's slightly like light and slightly dark. So he said, I was writing a slogan, self-determination to Kurdish people. And then this pastor came, he said, he was looking, he said, what have you written here? So, well, I've written here that, okay, the right of self-determination to Kurdish people. You are talking about like in early 80s, okay, you are talking about like 1980. So the pastor started beating my colleague, my friend. He said, well, why are you writing about the Kurdish people? Why are you writing the right of self-determination for the Kurdish people? Why you don't write it for the Baloch? He said, look, on the other side of the wall, I've written for Balochistan as well, okay? The right of self-determination for the Baloch people, okay? So now, my starting this point, because the closeness, the close relationship that we have with our cousin Kurdish, all the time, if there is anything happen in any part of Balochistan, always the Kurdish issue has been one of the issues that the Baloch people, they felt affinity, the closeness to the Kurdish people. And the reason I started with Kurdish as well, at the moment, really the light, if we think of the democratic light, is sanity in the region, okay? The rights of secular democratic rights for the people is very much really Kurdish contribution, men and women of Kurdish contribution. And the other thing, I think the light we can see it is in Balochistan. So to the less extent, but in Balochistan as well, there is a light that we see that sense of humanity, that sense of like democratic way of seeing things, that sense of like justice, okay, freedom, all these values, they are appreciated. And also the light that we see nowadays in the region is women. Again, of course, the Kurdish being really forefront of this movement. So for that reason, I started with like our Kurdish brothers, sisters, and I know that okay, the contribution has been massive. Okay, now there are a few fundamental points that I'm going to highlight, or friends that can't know, but I think they could have been much useful for them. Okay, so these fundamental points, unless we start with these fundamental points, we really don't get what's going on in the whole region. Okay, so let me start with Balochistan. Okay, if you look at Balochistan now, so this is really Balochistan what we have. Okay, of course there is going to be more of Balochistan here, but the point is I'm trying to make, and it's going to be similar to some extent with Kurdistan. Now look what we have here. Before, of course, there wasn't such a thing as Pakistan, is India, but at the moment, what we have in east of Balochistan, or this part of Balochistan, we've got one of the most brutal criminal system, okay, establishment that ever existed, by the way. Believe in me, it's one of those. So if I had time, I could go with a lot of like data and references for you to show that you really hasn't been that. So you've got Punjabi establishment here, Punjabi Muslim establishment, okay? We are not against Punjabi as such, okay? Punjabi like any Indian, so they're Indian. So this one, so one of the most criminal, brutal system ever existed. If you just look at for the last 70 years, the number of people they killed, the number of people they disappeared, the number of people they displaced, it's just unbelievable. The number of people women they raped, just unbelievable. So we have here, now we've got Baloch here, and notice what we have on the north, we've got Taliban. Okay? Again, product of Punjabi establishment. But Taliban, who are they? Okay? Senseless, totally senseless. No sense of humanity. When it comes to the question of women, as if they don't exist. Okay? So this is on the north. And both of them, by the way, against Baloch, because Baloch are secular Democrat people. Okay? So we have this one on this side. No northern parties, that one. Now you come to the, mullahs, Shia mullahs on the other side. Okay? So Shia mullahs, we've got them here. In last 44 years, well, you couldn't ask for worse criminal system, criminal regime than that one. And by the way, okay, in the south, they were not that friendly to us, Arabs as well. Okay? So even there are a lot of Baloch in so many Arab countries, or people being arrested and sent to Pakistan or to Iran, to whatever, okay? Now, imagine that, you just for like a couple of minutes, imagine that you are one of the worst spot on planet when it comes to criminality, cruelty, okay, in any sense, okay, you can imagine. Now, if you're under that sort of darkness, when you're under that sort of criminality, okay, no sense of humanity whatsoever, and if you see any light, okay, any light, then it shows that that is really a strong, rich culture, a strong, rich moral values, strong, rich sense of freedom when you see that. And we have it. We have one of the most kind of like, we could say even organized movement in the whole region. And this movement is a secular, is democratic, is rational, is humane, is legal, okay, because it's our land, okay, we are brought up there. Now, so when you have that sort of like context, then you put it in that context and you make sense. And our Kurdish, okay, cousins, they are not any better if you put it in the same context. If you put it in geographical context, all the brutal regime, all the brutal sort of criminal system, they're surrounded by that one. And when you get that movement, the movement that is asked for freedom, is asked for Zendegi Azadi, that means that movement, they have a very, very rich history. It's not something you can eliminate. It's not something that you can get rid of that by any means. And that's why they can't. So even yesterday we had one of the largest demonstrations in Zahedan. We had demonstration in Guada. We've got hundreds and thousands of people being disappeared. We still, the movement is continuing. We have thousands and thousands of people being killed. We still got the movement there. We had, mass graves in 2014 in Hostar.
which never been in the history of Balochistan, that sort of like, okay, mass graves. We had the longest, okay, like long march for discovery of disappeared Baloch political, okay, human rights activists. Yes, more than, okay, maybe I think it's 2,000 kilometers, the longest in human history, and it was led mostly by women. So when you got that sort of movement, you cannot get rid of that movement. Okay, it doesn't matter who comes. Now, shall I take it, okay, a bit further? Now, if you look whole Middle East, then you can make sense of all movement, Kurdish movement of women in Iran. Why women? Now they have got sympathy to us, okay, Kurds and Baloch, because we've got exactly the same, okay, we have the same problem. A lot of like father or brothers or their children, or it was the same, okay, people that they were attacking us, or they are attacking Kurdistan. But after 40 years or after 30 years, they realized that no, actually what the Kurdish they want is freedom, is for the other, all the human beings the same. Okay? Now imagine even this Germany. Okay? Germany, I tell you, Germany until 1870, it was 39 parts. You know, people that come to us to tell us, okay, look, you are divided in 3 parts, or you are divided in 4 parts, so it's the end of history for us. Germany until 1870 was 39 different parts. Okay, the German people, they fought for that, and they managed, okay, to get the German as it is. So coming back to the region, it makes sense for us to understand us when you put the whole region. I had an interview by one of Indian journalists, and he asked me the same kind of question. Say, look, well, people that are not going to support you, and I could hear it today as well, okay? Now, we are not here really to blame the rest of the world. We are responsible for ourselves, okay? So I think the responsibility comes to us first. If there is a democratic, okay, world, and they can come and support us, they're more than welcome. If they don't, tough luck. Okay, so it's not something that we wait for the rest of the world to just realize that, all right, when you fight for your rights, and when they realize that you are alternative, when they realize that you can stand on your own feet, all of them, they come to you, because they need us. So it's not something that, okay, always we are going to be in isolation. So we have to really look at the whole region, in context of the whole region, to say that where we are, okay? Now if you look at from, I don't know, Syria, from all the part of the Middle East, okay? As you come to Afghanistan, you go to Central Asia, okay? Well, this ghastly, okay, geopolitical structure of Pakistan they created, okay? So, well, what do you see? Anything you see is death and destruction. Anything you feel is criminality. Anything you see is corruption. Anything you see is militarism. Anything you see is the violation of human rights in every sense. Anything you see, violation of women's rights and so forth. Now, when you see it again from this context, then you see the light. The light is in Kurdistan, the light is in Balochistan. The light is in the voice of women. So you have to look at it from that really perspective, that, okay, where we can go and what we can do. Of course we've got issues, of course we've got problems in a way, but it's a problem that we can, whenever you're ready, okay, whenever you're ready, you can take advantage of the situation. Okay, we had a revolution in 1979. We are not really ready. Okay, Kurdish, they were slightly, okay, more ready than the rest. But the Kurdish alone couldn't do anything. But if the Baloch were ready, If the Arabs, they were ready, the Turkmen were ready, okay, the Gilag, the Lor, and all of them, they're ready, there wouldn't be such a system that exists now. Okay? So it really depends if we are ready, and how you're going to be ready. You are not going to be ready with just talking, really. Okay? So we cannot be ready unless, what we Balochi say, you got Rahu Rahband, unless you follow certain, okay, clear, independent document in form of Liberation Charter, then provisional constitution, then you cannot really do much. Oh, well, we can talk about that, but the political power is not something that as soon as you've got the political power, okay, even if you've got good intention, everything is going to be okay. No, good intention is not sufficient. Good intention becomes sufficient when you're informed. If you're not informed, good intention can lead really to bad consequences as well. So for that reason, I think all of Baloch, they have to come to their senses. They have to think in a national way. Okay? So you could have your political party, okay, manifesto, chart, you could have, okay, constitution, whatever you have it. But when it comes to the national question, is a question of you need to think nationally. You have to have a document for the whole, like Balochistan, okay, Baloch nation, and so forth. Now, I'm sure you recently heard that, okay, because of the movement that what is going on in Iran, some people, they just realize that, okay, it's good to have what is called Manchur. So they started imitating. So they, at the moment they got to this point, you cannot really, without independent documents, okay, you cannot take any movement to become a democratic, you cannot really take any movement to become humane, rational, legal. So for that reason, I think all Baloch, okay, the first step is that one. So it's much more than really so many other things that we've done, okay? Now, I'm sure of course you're pretty tired, okay? But there are a few other points I would like to highlight here to clarify. I think that these points, they are not very well clarified in all the literature that you get it, or like in Balochistan, or like Iran, or like Pakistan and Afghanistan and so forth. Remember, Balochistan, from 1660, it became kind of like independent sort of state, okay? So it has certain like common like legal framework, or at least there was not like a colonial power on that one until 1838, the British went to Afghanistan, and 1839 they went to Balochistan. So before it was like, Balochistan was almost like this one, okay? When they went to Balochistan, the movement that you had in Balochistan, they resisted. Pashtun and Baloch, they resisted a lot against British establishment. You've got plenty of documents for that, okay? If you are a little bit of like study history, then you realize that it was Pashtun and Baloch, they resisted against British. And the British, they suffered quite a lot. One reason that they decided to divide Balochistan, it was because of that. You say it's a huge land, very small population, so putting a lot of military force, it cost them a lot of money. So that's why then they divided Balochistan and they drew one line, okay? So it's called Goldsmith Line. In 1871, they drew one line. So part of Balochistan, it was given to Qajar, okay? Now people, I heard a lot of people that say Fars. The poor Fars, they were not in charge. They were Turkish. When we say Qajar, it means Turkish, basically. So it was given, this part was given to Qajar, and again they realized that it is very difficult to control Balochistan. So the resistance was very, very strong in a way. So again, they drew another land because they wanted to really to reduce the resistance of Pashtun as well. So what they did, they sold part of the Pashtun area and they drew land on the northern part. Okay? So it's called Joran land, but Joran land, that means part of Balochistan, was given like Nimruz to Afghanistan, and part of Pashtun was kind of like attached to the Balochistan, okay? So that the line was in like 1893 at that time. So by dividing Balochistan, it was easier for them to control. And all this idea of the Nawabs and Sardars and I don't know, and also remember the first mullah, okay, like really educated mullah, were trained by British Baloch mullah. They were taken from Balochistan and they sent to India to be trained. Not just because of for one reason. Reason was that you can manipulate people better. So when think of Balochistan, that means it was the resistance of the Baloch people that British they divided Balochistan. Now, how Pakistan was created, because I said there are a few points that I would like really. In 1933, there was a chap, Indian, Muslim fundamentalist by the name of Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. So he came up, he was studying in Cambridge, literature. So he came up with this idea of Pakistan, the term Pakistan, because remember in 1930s is the height of fascism. It's the height of fascism. So the fundamentalist Muslim, they supported Hitler. So they had this idea that Pakistan means the land of clean. Pakistan, is in all languages. It's in Iranian languages. It's in Kurdish, in Baluchi, in Gilaki, in Farsi, in Delhi. Means Pak, means clean. Stan means land, basically. Pakistan, that means the land of clean. Relative term, that means Hindu are religious, and clean. And those Muslim, Indian Muslim, they converted to Islam. And that is another story, by the way. Most of Indian Muslims, they converted to Islam. It was when Shah Togrul said, if you convert to Islam, those like, Afghan, Turk, when they occupied India, Shah Togrul issued a decree, said, if you convert to Islam, you don't need to pay tax. So it wasn't something that, suddenly they realized that, Islam is better than Hinduism. No, it was an opportunistic way. So when they converted to Islam, then the British first time went to India in 1600 to trade. And they went to south of India. In 1600, they went to trade. So this Indian, West Indian companies, it was one of the first kind of company, they went to trade. It was that company they started to become really powerful, and they started to get soldiers. And the first soldiers they got, it was from south. They were Hindu. So most of the soldiers they got them, from the early time, they were Hindus. They were nothing to do with North. After, in 1857, the Indian soldiers, they protested. They realized that, they are really these guys, they're taking advantage of them. So they've been colonized. It was after that protest that they had, then they reduced the number of the Hindus. Now, I just give you one idea. So after the First World War, British army or Raja army, it was 1.2 million people. Guess how many of them they were Punjabi Muslim, from the same area? Nearly 350,000 of them, they were from this Punjab, as you call it nowadays. Second World War, the largest number of the military they used, the British army, like Raj army, was about 2 million. The largest number, they were the Muslim. Okay, they were Punjabis, okay, the same area. When they divided like India, something like 35% of the Indian army, they gave it to what is called Pakistan. And Pakistan, when it was created in 1947, there were 2 parts. So you can Google it. There is nothing to do with that. They decided to take, western part of Punjab, because eastern part, they are Sikh. Western part, or the majority are Sikh. This part, remember that at least 30 to 40% of them, they are either Hindus or Sikh. So they decided to take part of the West Punjab and one part of East Bengal. It was just 2 parts. And the representative of those people that attended to draw the line, they were the representatives. There was nothing to do with that. Why? It wasn't because they thought that, Indian, Muslim, they are really suppressed. And the British, they were really like interested in the right of the Indian Muslim. No. From the start, from 1857, they started to use the card of Islam against Hinduism. The British, they used that one. They created Muslim League. If you look at the Muslim League was created in 1906. The first article of Muslim League is said this Muslim political party is created to defend the rights of the British in India. So the Muslim or the political organization they were serving basically the British Empire. They were used to suppress the liberation movement in India. So it wasn't something that then it came like 1945. 1945, the British, they realized that it's very difficult to really keep India. It was just impossible for them. Churchill asked the viceroy of India, he said, keep a bit of India. You can Google it. He said, keep a bit of India. Why? They said, look, now, the Chinese, they've got revolution. You've got Soviet Union. So if you lose India, then we lose our power. So you're not going to have any influence in Asia. Churchill said, you just keep a bit of India. And then he asked them actually to divide in 3 parts. Okay? So it was after, because it was their interest, that they realized that they cannot have any influence unless they are going to have to create a monster. And they created the monster. So after they created, remember that the vast majority of those people that wanted to be there, they're Bengali. But all the military establishment was Punjabi Muslim. So Pakistan is meaningless. Pakistan is, how can you create that your brothers and sisters are najas? And they teach it, by the way. Look at the Pakistani textbooks. They put Hindu as najas, that means napak, that means unclean. And Muslim, they're clean, they're pure, according to them. So that is a sick mind. That is a product of real deranged people. No human being is going to ask another human being to be unclean or whatever. And then you see that from that time, how many people, because of this sick mind, how many people were killed. Look, 1947, 48, at least 1.5 million people died because of this sick mind. At least 10 to 15 million people, they were displaced. 1948, they started the war again with India. Of course, they came to Balochistan. And then you have all sorts of what you have in Balochistan. In Balochistan, in history of Balochistan, we never ever, in history of Balochistan, that sort of criminality, that sort of death and destruction that we have. There are certain sacred values in Balochistan, nobody could dare to touch them. They did. They killed our elderly people, tortured them. They raped our women. They killed our children, kids. 5 years, 6 years. Now we are talking about journalists. I calculated something like 27 journalists were like in very short time that I wrote a book, they were killed. All the hundreds of other people that have been disappeared. So you never had, as I said, we had a mass grave, and you have Islamic atomic bomb, for goodness sake, and where they're going to explode it in Balochistan. What's the consequences of that? Now imagine the potential of Balochistan. So what happened to all the potential of Balochistan? Balochistan is one of the richest in relation to the population. One of the richest region on the whole planet, if you put it that way. So what happened to that one? Death, destruction, killing. Okay? So it's really that Punjabi establishment is something that people, they don't see it as a target. When I see my colleagues, my friends, when they talk, they don't see that. Pakistan is meaningless. There is no such a thing as Pakistani nation. Actually, is an insult to us. Is absolutely insult to any human being, not to us, to use that term. Now, in case of Iran, okay, now people again they mix up the idea of the Iran with Plato of Iran. Now, in ancient time, the Greek, they called this whole area Afghan, Baloch, Kurd, Fars, all that, all of them, Gilag, all of this one, Plato of Iran. Okay? Plato of Iran with country of nation of Iran is something totally different. Again, when they created this term again, it was in 1934, 1 year after the creation of that monster term, Pakistan. You see, in 1920s, okay, when Raza Khan came to power, Raza Khan was a simple soldier, Russian soldier, by the way, Gaza. Anyhow, the Raja system collapsed, so Raza Khan came to power. Raza Khan, I think his mother is like Turk, his father is from north of Iran, okay, from Mazandaran. And Raza Khan, most people they say was illiterate. So he couldn't read and write. I read it in some books, they say he could, and some books they say he couldn't. Now, guess what? Raza Khan's name is Raza Khan Mir Panj. Now, Raza Khan Mir Panj, he came in 1920. By 1925, okay, he managed to get hold of the government, as a coup with the British government, by the way. So then, by 1925, suddenly he became a king. Okay? And now, what they did, Pahlavi is the Iranian languages. Okay? Iran, like Kurdish language, British language, Lord language, okay? Pashtun, Dari, okay? So it's ancient. So in order to show that they come from ancient time, ancient Persia, as they call it. So they use the term Pahlavi. Suddenly that somebody with no really illiterate, but exceptionally brutal, suddenly he becomes, the head of government and become what? The king. So it was in 1930s, he started to support Hitler. Raza Khan was supporting Hitler. So the people that they came here to study here, so they used that idea that, controlling Kurd, controlling Arab, controlling Turk, controlling Gilaki, Mazandarani, Lord, Baloch, it's going to be very difficult. So we have to come up with one solution. So it's it's not going to be Persia, it's not going to be, Fars, it's going to be Iran. Why? Because they use this idea, Iran means the land of Aryan. Okay? The racist term. That's okay, we are the Aryan, we are like German. So we are Aryan race, so this area is called the land of Aryan. Again, is a sick mind to distinguish human being from one from another. There is one race, it's human race, for goodness sake. Okay? So it was, again, because of that they used that term. Now, of course, people, unless they don't know this basic. So you could be, I don't know, lecturer, you could be professor of that university, and you have no clue of the basic meaning, the foundation of this stuff. Why you get it wrong? So Pakistan for them is kind of like nation, it's just, as soon as I talk to them, I give them some, like 2 minutes of my brain, then they realize that actually it's very offensive to say, even to use the term Pakistan. Okay? So I'm not going to talk more than that, okay? But I'll leave it to you if you've got questions. But you all know that, okay? The pain we have. As I said, in history of Balochistan, we never had that sort of like history. Death, destruction, killing, and really undermining all the sacred values that we have, like respecting our elders, that nobody could touch all women or look at women in a different way, okay? Or come to our land and do whatever they want, okay? That sense of like humanity that exists in Balochistan and the culture of Balochistan is secular. So you don't see Baloch, going to enforce other people to believe any religion, okay? So you say, look, what we have as always I mentioned, you say Sapadini, means, okay, it's up to your religion, okay? Or we've got another expression, you're going to, okay, I don't know, live in your grave or something like that. It means that secularism, it means humanism, it means that, so in Balochistan when you go, they don't take you as alien. And that was, I think, one of the reasons, okay, people that take advantage of us, okay. So this sense of hospitality, this sense of people accepting other people is really strong. These are the values that, okay, we've got a movement. These are the values that, okay, you stand for your rights. These are the values that, of course, people, they say, oh, you cannot do much. Of course we can do much. What we've done so far, what the Kurdish have done, what we've done so far, is for some people, it's just unbelievable. Even though there are thousands and thousands of people, they're demonstrating, they're fighting in different ways, so we shouldn't think that is one way. Or somebody maybe like, I don't know, human rights activists, somebody's, I don't know, environmentalists, somebody, I don't know, women's rights, okay, they're supporting or somebody, I don't know, even, I don't know, trade unions, student unions, or different political parties, okay? We need all the different political parties with different persuasion, then necessary, okay? They might not agree with my view, but it's a necessity for any movement to mature, okay, to learn and to progress, okay? So I don't then undermine the Baloch movement, okay? I don't think, of course we got problem, okay? It's not something that, okay, we should deny the problems that we have. We've got a lot of problems, but the problems we are going to solve it. Sometimes I'm not quite happy, people, we start to blame the whole universe because of our problem. Okay? No, I think we have to stand our own feet. When people, if they're like Democrats, like, okay, our friend Carlos, okay, so it's humanists, okay, you realize that, okay, we've got the same issues that, okay, we supported, and they come. And people, they will come, okay. I've mentioned to some friends, I came to this city 1986, okay? I think most of you were not born at that time, okay? You couldn't have that meeting, could you? I didn't know that if there is any Baloch here. I don't know, maybe there was none. But you see that really the movement changed. Movement is really progressing. My last point, you see the mystery of like success nowadays is education. Unless you're educated, unless you know that what is going on, okay, read on the top. Not, you know, we can calculate, okay, we saw, look, we've done a little bit of study, that's one. We have to get to the really international level. So, for example, if we had like 20, 30 highly motivated, highly educated, I don't know, philosophers, economists, journalists, okay, anthropologists, sociologists, you just name it. Actually, you privileges, you start like few idiots in a Punjabi establishment or military. They're not really much. Of course, they've got money and they use that one, but it's not really that much in nowadays to come to West, to democratic society and defend yourself. I can't see anything. Believe me, when I go to university, I see lakhs, and there are plenty of them. 5 minutes after you talk, they say, okay, where are you from? I say, I'm Baloch. Even Fars as well. So you're Baloch? I say, yes, I'm Baloch. After 5 minutes, they don't know how to run. Because they haven't got this, look, there is no legitimacy on the power, okay? Colonialism, it doesn't matter that, okay, is a British Empire, or is it a farce, or is Punjabi establishment because, okay, they maybe, they were, I don't know, servitude of the British. It doesn't matter, okay? Colonialism is colonialism. Nobody has got rights to rule Balochistan, apart from the Baloch. Nobody has got rights to rule Kurdistan, apart from Kurdistan. So my last point, I'm sure you're getting very tired. This is all really century. This is all century. Kurdish century, Baloch century, women's century in Middle East. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My question is this, that as you mentioned, we are divided in 3 countries, or compelled to be divided like that. Do you think, or do you see any chance, is there a united movement around the leadership? Because it has been talked about the leadership, missing leadership. Do you think we are going to have in near future all these things?
I think there has been a lot of changes in recent years. Okay? Now, I was a refugee. I crossed from other side of Balochistan to eastern Balochistan, okay, because I was a political refugee, okay, quite young. And when I went to the other side of Balochistan, so I could see, BSO, even some of our like close, like Baloch, they were suspicious of us. They said, look, Islamic regime is anti-imperialism. So these people, they must be like, okay, if they're against the Islamic regime, there must be wrong with them. But you see, since then, there have been a lot of changes. Okay? I think we have to also mention all the dear, okay, the lives that we lost. That is a contribution that we are here. And I think we have to mention people like her, actually, as a really symbol of bringing that sort of thing, okay? Because any movement, again, unfortunately, it costs. It costs lives. And it costs the lives of the dearest one, more enlightened one, okay? Because that's the case. So if you look at in recent years, it's the first time again in human history, or in Balochistan history, yes, that we see that like national movement. You see national movement from Zaidan, Chabahar, as you go to Gwadar, you go to Karachi, you go to Kahan, you go to any part, you go to Naples. It's the first time we see that. So that's maybe the first steps. So I'm not saying that, okay, it's going to be tomorrow, or the day tomorrow, because with the social issues we really don't know. As I said, unless we prepare ourselves, it's up to us. I remember one of sister asked me after many years. She was quite active political activist. She said, "Do you think we are going to be? Do you think we can get our freedom?" I said, "Well, if the Baloch people they want their freedom, they can get it. Okay, as simple as that. If the Kurdish people they want their freedom, they're going to get it. The rest of us. Remember, we are not any different from German. We are not different from, I don't know. If you look at the map now, I was looking older, member of, for a short time I was teaching something like European economy. It wasn't something that I knew much, but I have to teach. So I looked at all the list of the European community, like it was 27, 28, 29 or something like that. Now I look at the vast majority of them, like 2 million, 3 million population, 4 million population, and when you look at the Kurdish, you say, for goodness sake, at least there are 40, 50 million. So how come it's like the German population, okay? Or Kurdish, they might say a little bit more, but less me, I can put it, okay, less. The Baloch, I mean, people that come up with different millions, okay? But there are millions of them. Anyway, there are more than many of the nations in Europe. Now, the question is, because the people that start from Eurocentric view. From Eurocentric view, that means we are really, those people that in that part of the world, really they don't understand anything. It's always been there in history. They've been killing each other, okay? They cannot do anything else. That sort of mindset. So for them, they can get their freedom, but when it comes to the Baloch, when it comes to the Pashtun, when it comes to the Kurd, when it comes to the, other nationality, the region, say, no, okay. Well, these, borders are sacred. How can you change this border? Now, I think if the Baloch people they want, and obviously they want freedom, they get it. So, in regard to situation there, because some aspect of is not in no power, but I think it's the century is the Kurdish century, and is a Baloch century, and is a women's century in that region. I think they're ahead, I think they're progressive, I think they're democratic, I think their movement is humane, I think their movement is legal, okay? So from every perspective that you look at it, that means there is a light, there is not really darkness. Now the extent of cruelty that we see in the region, again, is one reason that is going to change. So the whole region is going to change, not just us.
It's okay, thank you. मासिक एक हफ्ते सारे गुने कम बजे रिक्वेस्ट करने लोटा कि माँ सती बलोच हैं मुख्तलिफ पार्टियाँ बायदे एक जागे बनिंदा या सिस्टम में बिकना एक जागे वजह छिया नरेंदा और वजह छिया या कप्पे वो दूर दूर जर्मनी ता मनियाला तो सारा गप्पो नूरफत अष्टाविशजा एक बलोची शायद बस की तय न बिता अमी 2020 से मनियाला 500,000 बलोच फैमिली हस्ता मलेशिया के मुख्तलिफ जुर्जान से ताल्लुकदार तो सारे उनसे रिक्वेस्ट बनी हमें से एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि मचिया और नबे बेनिंदे सारा बिदार है कि मैं मसला ईशान के बारे में मामले पे और भी तारा जुर्जा देने में करें मिन्नतवार.
Okay, I say it in English, okay? My dear friend, he asked me or requested that. Well, the question was basically why Baloch they don't get united. So, well, I think there is, with all liberation movements, is a question of unity is a problem. Okay, because it's not just really what we want. We've got all sorts of powers, okay, they engage in all sorts of, influences, okay, and the resources that we have, even the knowledge that we have, is not going to be really in the sense that, okay, to bring all the Baloch political parties together, okay? Now, I think there is nothing wrong to have different, it is essential to have different political parties, okay? Political parties, remember, is not like kind of like for the whole, okay, national manifesto. Political parties, okay, some maybe they put emphasis, I don't know, on investment, some on workers, some okay, on maybe women issues, some on environment, some maybe on other issues. That's the nature of political parties. Or some on big businesses, that's the nature of the political parties, okay? That's fine. I think when it comes to the question of national movement, as I said, unless you come up with a kind of like Manchur, you come up with Liberation Charter, Rah Rahband, that Rah Rahband, Manchur, includes all the rights of the old people, including those people that committed crime in Balochistan. So everything that, then you can stand. You say, look, this is something that, okay, is independent document, so all of us agree on that one. Now, but to reach to that, okay, like basically intellectual standard, you really need to understand your right properly. You really need to understand your rights in every aspect, every sense, in order to survive, in order to really to take the movement forward. We need to come and say, look, on these points we agree and we work together. Now, do I blame any political group or organization? I think we all should be blamed. I think there is no one political organization or one individual that we can say, no, these are the one. We're all responsible. That means we haven't taken our responsibility, okay, the way it should be taken.
My first question is, just before session, Mumtaz Baloch said that Pakistani repression in Balochistan is an obstacle to connecting a leader with his people. Don't you think that the Baloch leadership in the international world does not have any special coordination with its worker or with nation? So here is no any Pakistani or Irani affirmation. So it's not the failure of our leadership. What do you think?
I think I agreed for the first part of your question, but the second part I'll answer, okay? I think the first part, okay, well, there is a weakness among us. I think I think it's not just exclusive to the village. I work with many different organizations from mid-1980s. A lot of them know this. They got their independence, including Eastern European, okay, in London. I saw all of them, the similar problem that we have, or brothers and sisters, Kurdish, they have, I don't know, all the Eastern European, they became, they regained their independence, or South America, was really like to some extent, okay, very similar. So that is the nature of really like the movement, okay? But that is not excuse, okay? That is not really excuse. I think we have to, all conscientious village, okay? It doesn't matter from which political party. As I said, political party are the necessity. Is even they totally disagree with what like I say or what I believe, but their necessity. We can learn from each other, but we have to remember is the question of like homeland or people. So if somebody from one political party is going to be taken to prison and tortured, they torture me, they torture you, okay? It's part of us. So in that sense, we really have to get together, okay? How we come together is by talking, okay? So this is the missing, among us. by sitting and talking. If we are not sitting and talking and we hear all the stories, you know that the states, they're very good in that sense because they're paid to create enmity, to create, I don't know, rift between different people, but in different ways. So we have to understand. So the only way is if we sit together, we talk together, listen to each other, not blaming each other from the start. Okay, you've done this, you've done that. Okay, we all like human beings, we make mistake, and making mistake is a right really, unless those people they committed crime, so they are not part of us. But the rest we are one. So the second question that you repeated again, because my age I forgot what you said.
It was my first question. I didn't say my second question now.
Okay, that's okay. Say then go to your second.
My second question is our information officer Najib Baloch was asked earlier that Balochistan is constantly being ignored by international power, human rights champions. Has the Free Balochistan movement made any plan in the coming time to discuss the Baloch issue at the international level?
Look, I think we had a couple of meetings recently. Okay, we had a couple of meetings recently. We went to European Parliament, and not long time ago we went to Holland. But again, I think these are quite basic. This is one area that, unless we all, political parties, organizations, human rights organization, all the movement, we get together for them really to deal with international community, human rights organization, states, they are not going to take us seriously. So unless we do that one, it's not something that, I can do it alone or you can do it alone. It's when we realize that necessity, the necessity that we have to get together for the international community say, look, we are a nation and we've got certain rights and our rights are violated. And if you take it and then seriously, so anywhere you go, you have to go with documents. If you go to, like usually we do, if you go to somewhere and they say, look, we are Baloch, we are really suppressed. The Islamic regime done X, Y, Z, the Punjabi establishment does that much. It's we sympathize, and that's all. So there is nothing that can do. Unless we go with the document, that means you see, for many years, we are looking for just the name of, yourself very well, the name of all dear ones who disappeared. Some people, they were not contributing anything. When I was writing one book, I asked for 2 names. For those certain people that, they've got the names, for goodness sake, is a book. I didn't get it. Then I asked all friends, I said, please, find me these names. And I think one good thing about Free Balochistan movement, from the start up to before that, they've been very much concerned about all of people that being disappeared, taken away, tortured. So I think they've been trying the hardest to get the names, because that is very, very important, I think if we had the sense of cooperation from other friends, we could have done better.
Thank you. Anybody else?
A question for our knowledge. I have read somewhere that the remnants of the earliest people in Balochistan were the Brohi people, Dravidian speaking people.
Yes.
They were originally Hindus and Buddhists. How true is that?
Well, I think you ask a historian. You know, if I tell you anything is not in my knowledge, I really don't know. Okay, it's not something that I really can. If you ask, like, I don't know, anthropologists, historian, people like that, for me, the Baloch are Baloch. I really don't care where they come from, what they do. It's those people that are there, they're dear to me. I try to fight their rights.
Right. We are speaking now a lot about human rights and about very important things, but I think what is missing for me to understand is what are the diplomatic steps that the movement is planning and how you want to achieve independence.
I think that, if I understand in your question, there are three really questions, okay? So one is about, okay, human rights, that you said, okay, we are all talking about. Then in terms of like diplomatic, most of the political parties in Balochistan, most of them, even those they really believe like, I don't know, federalism, or they believe, okay, independence, or they believe, you know, within the same boundary, I think they're doing some work. You know, we cannot ignore that, okay? But I think it was a similar question to that one. We haven't managed to have kind of like unified all these forces that exist, to unify them and take them internationally as a Baloch nation. So people, they go as their political party, people, they go as, I don't know, certain maybe pressure group, okay, like women, about disappeared persons, you know, families. But internationally, as all these political parties, all these different social groups in Balochistan, we haven't really managed so far, okay, to like present ourselves as a unified, okay, nation, and to express all our grievances, okay. And the next question you ask about like independence, I think in Balochistan is very strong, like Kurdistan. Even so, like you see people from different political parties, they might say, look, we want like really federation, we want certain like self-determination. But when you sit to them and you talk to them, you say, look, well, I think we want our freedom. But those, I think, colleagues, those friends that, okay, they straight away say, look, my right is, we cannot accept less than rights than any other nation. I think it's growing and it's very strong.
Professor, I would like to know that nowadays there is a theory about the western part of Balochistan that it was, some Baloch intellectuals speak about it, western region of Balochistan was a separate nation which was not governed by the Kalat. How true is that statement?
I think when you ask historical question, I think it's better to ask a historian. I mean, I read a little bit, but it's not something is really is going to convince you, okay? So it doesn't convince myself, so let alone you. So I leave it to you ask a historian.
As you mentioned that earlier, that we are surrounded by criminal systems actually, which is Pakistan and Afghanistan, and the other side is Iran. So what are the chances that we have a peaceful country and our economic growth that we can have established there? How can we do that?
Okay. Now, you see, you put a precondition, okay? Your precondition is how we can achieve that, okay? So I think I twist your question, okay? Now, Balochistan, if you look, Balochistan is really rich in resources. You know, in history, there is such a thing as historical opportunity. Yeah? So you see that, like, I don't know, Saudi Arabia suddenly is going to have petrol. That is historical, okay, opportunity. You take it, okay? So then you see that, I don't know, internet is going to be invented in some part, California. That is historical opportunity, okay? So there are always going to be historical opportunity for different nations. Silk Road, it was historical, okay, opportunity. Now suddenly you see Isfahan became very big, okay, the city that, okay, nowadays, all the way to Central Asia. Balochistan in last 50 years, 60 years, it has the best historical opportunity, but unfortunately, okay, we are colonized. Why? Look, Dubai, okay, look at it from like 60s and 70s, Dubai is nothing really, okay? Now, if you look at all the coastline, from Karachi to Bandar Abbas, we could have like 5 Dubais. So having like just this one, okay, having like 5 Dubai, it means what? Millions of jobs. It means what? It's huge, like, okay, GDP, I mean, like, economic growth, okay? So it's just one. Even the ports that we have in the last 50 years, we could have utilized to feed not Baloch, we could feed this hungry Punjabi as well, okay? Or we feed, okay, the Fars as well, okay? So that's one. Second thing, remember that all the coastline we have, even fishery is enough to feed our population, okay, in international market, okay? Even with coastline, I tell you now, so you could have tourism. You know, people with like in Central Asia, with that cold, well, they come to Balochistan, you know, for like 3 months, 4 months, okay? So that, even that source, let alone all the other sources that we have. Natural resources, we are one of the richest in the region. One of the richest in the region. Natural resources, all the natural resources that you have, they take it, okay, the Chinese and Punjabi stuff. Well, the Punjabi, they don't allow you to know that what you've got. No Baloch knows who's this Punjabi or Pakistani Punjabi establishment is doing there. Nobody knows. So all the resources, natural resources that you have, it could be more than enough to really organize, okay, Balochistan. Okay? Agriculture, you know, people, they think we haven't got agriculture. We've got plenty of agriculture. Farming, okay, you've got. So nowadays, look, Balochistan, we've got Sistan, what they call it that. They call it Balochistan, Sistan, okay, that was huge. Imagine in that part of the world that we had, we provided all the grain for the whole region at that time. So you could use it to utilize, okay, solar energy, you utilize wind energy, you utilize, I don't know, the wave energy, okay? Not just forget that. He said, look, we are not going to do anything. We let Balochistan, unlike Martin, you know, we let Balochistan be used as transitory location for all the Arabs, for all the Africa, for all the other parts of India. Then you take them to Central Asia, to other parts. That would be more than enough. So what I'm saying that even in the real, like, if you've got ABC of economics, then it makes sense to you that you can develop your Balochistan in a relatively short time. So with all the resources, okay, yes, there is potential there, and we can do much better than, okay, what people, we are not really dependent on others, okay? So when people, they come, oh, we bring development, and when you see this idiot, you know, like, you know, Punjabi establishment, oh, we bring the development, economic development for you. No, we don't need the development, we don't need them at all. Or they, you know, in Iran sometimes, you know, they say, okay, well, we bring some development. No, actually, we provide development for them, so no, we don't need them at all. So we can stand our own feet economically.
in my point of view, my question was a little bit different, and I think it was more about like mindset of like how we can get rid of Taliban, how we get rid of these mullah systems in Balochistan, which is totally affecting on us.
And look, I think you see this fundamentally is not in our culture, okay? It's not going to be in our culture, okay? I really haven't got much. Now, in our culture is very, very strong reach. No, people like Iranian regime, they say, now look at what happened. The mullah, they were supported by Iran regime, now look at what happened. All of them, they come against it. So I think in our culture, the people they see is they're really used by the regime. For us, I think we are secular Democrat people. I think people, they are entitled to their views, they're entitled to their beliefs, they're entitled to their religion. Nobody is going to be hurt or persecuted because they believe religion or they don't believe religion. It's up to them. So mullahs, if they, mullah, doesn't matter mullah or non-mullah, if we've got our religious and government, the democratic government, if they work according to the law, it's their right, to pray, to do whatever they want, as long as they don't violate, religious and law.
Thank you very much. I think we had enough today, and we are running out of time also. Actually, our plan was to end it up at 6 o'clock, but we had got some limit of time, so we utilized it. Once again, I thank everybody who participated in the event, and especially to our guest speakers. Thank you very much.